Key endorsement overnight for Wisconsin Governor Scott Walker from the largest newspaper in the state. This, as a recent poll shows him taking the lead ahead of his recall election. 50% picking the governor over his Democratic challenger, Milwaukee Mayor Tom Barrett, who's trailing behind by 6 points. Joining us this morning to talk about the upcoming election and its national impact is the Wisconsin Governor, Scott Walker. Good to see you, Governor.
Hey, Dave, good to talk to you this morning.
It's not just that poll. Most we've seen are trending in your direction, anywhere between 5 and 9 points. Your opponent's favorability ratings also slipping by some 10 points in the last couple of weeks. What's turned things in your direction, do you feel?
Well, I think you see the shift. Early on, this recall election supposedly was about our reforms. They don't talk about that much anymore because we've documented that our reforms have saved more than $1 billion. For the first time in 12 years, our reforms have helped lower property taxes at the local level on a median valued home. That's led to a surplus in our budget of $154 million. For the first time ever, we've had 2 consecutive years where we put money in our rainy day fund. And probably the biggest issue that we've heard in the last couple of weeks was about job numbers in 2011. And a new survey of nearly every employer in the state of Wisconsin, one that economists agree is the best measure of jobs in the state, shows that we gained jobs in 2011, and we've had more than 30,000 new jobs since I've taken office. So they keep moving the ball on what this issue is about. I think it's just about rehashing the last election instead of on the real substantive issues where we're moving Wisconsin forward.
And we also mentioned that critical endorsement from the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel. Part of that was a little bit critical of you this morning, saying you brought about some of the animosity on yourself, choosing an in-your-face style from the start. You have said that if you do win this recall election, you will not be more bipartisan, but more consensus building. So take me back. If you were to do over this collective bargaining legislation that limited the public unions, how would you do it differently?
Well, I think I'd laid the framework better in January and February of last year. If I told voters, regardless of whether they were Democrat or Republican, if I told the taxpayers of our state more clearly last year that, most of our school districts at the time had to buy their health insurance from just one company, and that cost them tens of millions of dollars more than they needed to. If I'd pointed out the abuses in the public sector of overtime to the point where there was a city bus driver in Madison making more than $150,000, if I pointed out those sorts of problems, I think most taxpayers, Democrat, Independent, Republican alike, would have said, Governor, you need to fix it. My problem was I was so anxious to fix it that I didn't spend as much time talking about it. But usually in politics, it's the other way around. Right. Usually politicians talk about it endlessly and never seem to fix things. So I'm always going to be gearing up to fix things. I just understand looking forward we need to have a better process to get to that final product.
So maybe different style but not substance if you had to do over. All right, so ultimately all elections are local, but this one has $20 million of donations pouring in from donors, including the Koch brothers. On the other side, the national labor unions are all involved. What are the national implications, in your opinion, of your own recall election?
Well, we saw early last year in February and March of 2011, the national special interest, the big government union bosses poured millions of dollars in, first to take on our reforms, then to take on a Supreme Court justice trying to tie him to me, then to take on 6 Republican state senators in recall elections, then last fall in the petition drive itself, and now just on Friday, the unions here in the state talked about money coming in from them and the national unions to fight us over the next couple of weeks. I think it is one of those clear debates about who's in charge. Is it a handful of special interests? Is it a handful at the state and the local level of big government union bosses? Or is it ultimately the hardworking taxpayers? I stand up and side with the taxpayers. I think that's an important message, not just in my state here in Wisconsin, but I think all across the country. Are we going to stand with the special interests? Or are we going to stand with the hardworking taxpayers? And my hope is on June 5th we send a clear and resounding message across our state and across the United States that we need to stand with the taxpayers.
Wisconsin Governor Scott Walker, thanks for joining us this morning. We appreciate it.
Great to be with you.